One of the areas of concern when it comes to the report the London Business School provided us is inside the third section on the economics of the pandemic. What we understand is that this is definitely not a time to ignore the very fact that the economic slowdown worldwide has been brought to you by COVID-19. The presence of the virus and our response to containing it and mitigating the risks on society has brought the entire world of economy and industry to a halt. And there's no debating it. I mean, as I look at the numbers here from China, from the nowcast to the forecast, we're going from 0 to flat. When you look at the Euro area, the nowcast to the forecast, recovery is imminent, but when? When you look at what's happening in other parts of the world, such as the historical surge in U.S. unemployment benefits, at 3.28 million, it supersedes that which actually occurred back in the great 2008 credit crisis, the recession back that the financial fiasco unfolded. 3.28 million and climbing. So this is not just a momentarily lapse in the economic output of great countries and great economies. What we're seeing is that there's a huge preventative measure by many people who are really, in fact, preparing for the worst. And largely because, by our observation, people are, in fact, confronted by a number of realities. There's a loss of work or a suspension of their services, where many people have been furloughed or let go just on a conditional basis. But we also see that markets, industry, and sectors are being reinvented. In other words, we know that based on the seasonality of the virus and knowing that until greater constraints are put in place and/or measures to contain the virus is met, or even a vaccine discovered, is that it's not going to be business as usual. It'll be business unusual. So what we have is a whole new world of digital and virtual business. Enterprise will be reinvented, and as a result, a lot of things will be adjusted. So the impact on stock markets around the world, from the Chinese market, the S&P 500, the FTSE, and also the FTSE MIB in Italy, has all been, very clear. It's crashed and it's been devalued relative to and proportionate with what's going on in the world. The impact on travel services are no different. What we see is people understanding the importance of, abiding by the quarantine rules. And when there's no business and there's no marketplace, when the essentials are no longer in fact running and there's no business to conduct, there's no need to travel. So as such, you have yourself a very heavily impacted travel industry. From air to hotel to the restaurants and all the entertainment businesses that are associated with the act of traveling are all suspended. And so what we have is restaurants on the decline, transportation services on the decline, the impact on the durables expenditures on the decline. No industry or market segment has been left unscathed by the scaling back and the shutting down of industry due to COVID-19. Now, the impact on the supply chain has remained quite interesting because we still have to eat. We still require gas and food and all the likes to, keep the lights on and keep our survival intact. And so as a result, what we know is that the impact on the supply chain is quite interesting. The reason why is because trucking remains in play. Transport such as train and other devices and mediums of couriering, shipping, and in fact importing and/or exporting goods remains intact. But the sectors that are going to be impacted the worst are tourism and hospitality, aviation, airlines, automotive, consumer products, and consumer electronics and semiconductors. And largely not because they're not needed, but largely because of the sources, ingredients, and the actual parts that are required and the labor that comes with it that are needed to manufacture them. So what we have right now is a grand search for a safe haven. The world is looking for a real, true baseline restarting point. And this is not a conversation about where is the economy going. This is not a conversation about what market to now invest in. This is a courageous conversation about what place and what role does COVID-19 have on the world economies. And it's a real one. Right now, what we're now seeing unfold in Russia and Saudi Arabia is also simultaneous devaluation in their marketplaces. So what we have is a huge rollout of devaluating times. There is a silver lining in all of this. There's a grand reversal, according to the report, on air pollution. As a result of this short-term run of effects, if it were, based on commerce and commerciality, marketplace and industry slowing down, population rates have in fact dispelled. And so what we have in places like France, Italy, and Spain is all-time record greats in the air quality in those areas. So as social isolation will continue to increase, what we also see is that highly skilled and more likely to work from home. And so as a result, the traffic routes will be different and our way of life will be different. High earners, according to the report, are more likely to work from home going forward post-COVID-19. This lends to a great conversation around, well, what areas particularly would be? Well, professional services and related, management, business and financial operations, professional services, office, admin support, sales, production, and transportation and material moving are some of the least, as well as construction, extraction, and installation. So in other words, professional services at the very most likely will continue to work from home, and those that are hands-on will likely work from where they currently are based. So what we have here is some seriously long potential changes, long-term impact from this midterm crisis. And that's why it's important to understand the place and role that COVID-19's got, not only in your life, but on the planet. And as a result, you'll notice the rise in other new trends. Homeschooling, internet access, and education, both online and virtual, will be on the fly high. Why? Because people will need more access to education from home on a going forward basis. And the internet bandwidth will also need to match the need of inbound and subscribed learners. So we have a great race that's now between us and the end of COVID-19. And although we don't know where it originated from, we can say this from asserting that which we found from the London Business School report, that between now and the time of recovery, industry is being, well, reinvented. The question becomes, where will you be?